Welcome to Quick Cast this week. Greery is our main host. He's going to walk you through who we are and what we do and why we're here and all the exciting things we're looking to accomplish during this show. Take it away, Greery.
Yeah, quick cast. Hey, so yes, we're here. I'm Greery, and I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll, go around the room. What did we do this week? I obviously did not really do a whole lot. I had a funeral and things of that nature, and I looked last night, and I was only 250 out of 1,000 Valor cap, and only like halfway to my Conquest cap, and actually I didn't get any gaming done really at all this week. Missed like most of the raiding that happened. It's a bummer. It's a bummer. So does somebody have better news than that? Because my week sucked.
Fortunately not.
I know Az is going to finish this off with a bang. I thought you were going to finish off with a bang, Az. I was going to jump in there and say, hey, my week this week I had two good raid nights. I mean, that they were raid nights. They happened. They were good. Decent progress, with the exception that Galacross, for some reason, is the bane of our existence, and it takes us forever to beat him, and it shouldn't because we've downed him before, and the mechanics are not difficult. It's just making stupid mistakes. I know I take full blame on it was a Tuesday night. I think I had full blame, with the exception of the end where somebody might have bubbled themselves.
That was my fault.
Oh,
I wasn't going to say who.
Yeah,
I hear that you're a little low, Scribby. That's the rumor.
I wasn't going to say who it was. I'm low
in the volume. That's what I hear.
Okay. I'll speak up a little bit more. I'll turn my gain up. Gain. How's that? It should be a little bit better. Actually,
sure.
So it should be better, and I will speak straight into the microphone now.
All right.
So that was my week. To me, it was a decent week. I mean, it's still progression, so I don't get too frustrated. I think the only time I get frustrated is when we're looking for a healer with 15 minutes left in raid time, in the hopes that they'll come in and do one boss with us, and it's just not going to happen.
Surprisingly difficult to find somebody in that situation, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. Well, what did you do this week, Mr. Azrael, besides bubble yourself once four-timingly?
Well, the first wing, normal, went really well. We breezed right through that pretty quick. I was really impressed with that. PvP'd like usual. We think there was 3 or 4 of us like normal. Still looking for some more people. Other than that, got my Valor capped. We actually have Rev who joined, and we got him from 89 to 90 in right around an hour.
Yeah, it was quite quick.
Yeah.
Quite quick. I guess I could have talked about that. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah,
that was good. We brought Rev along.
Got him some gear.
He's up to LFR level, right? Or is he up to
Siege
Flex yet?
503, I think he is, or something.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Is he still working tonight? I saw you guys were on tonight. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, he's on. He was on running stuff a little bit ago. Yeah. We ran some LFR action.
Cool.
Well, cool. It sounds like it was a pretty diverse week. Scrib didn't talk about what he really did this week, but that's okay because we know what it was, right? And it's not pertinent to this show at all.
That's why I didn't mention it.
So there you go. So what we're going to do is we will...
next week I won't have anything either because I'm going to be gone basically for the rest of the week through... I mean, I should be there for raid tomorrow. I will be there for raid tomorrow night, but then I'm gone. I'm out of country till Monday morning.
Out of the country, huh? Wow.
Out of the country.
Big deal.
Hopefully nothing too bad.
You want to name drop your country, or you want to name drop
Mexico. Hopefully I'll be looking at some Mayan ruins, trying to...
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I guess that wraps that section up, so let's launch into Critical Hits. The first thing we are going to launch into this week for Critical Hits is our main news section, and obviously there was a big interview that happened actually just before our show last week, and we talked about the interview that happened last week on our show. There was actually another one, and a bunch more information. This time it was from the guys at Final Boss TV. They also had Ian Hazakastas on, and there's a brilliant the episode's there. The episode's on YouTube. You can find it at Final Boss TV. What I was gonna say is there's a brilliant summary that MMO. I really love the summary that MMO Champion wrote up. It really breaks it down and covers the information that they covered, and it's a nice breakdown. And honestly, I thought we would dive into just some of the freaking awesome things that came out of it.
There were a lot of good things.
The first thing, yeah, I mean, it was a huge. The interviews last week were great, and it's it would have been too much to do in one show.
Now, do you remember this? I mean, I was watching. I remember listening and watching CTR before Pandaria hit. I mean, I just picked it back up beforehand. I think I was playing with Godmocker at the time. We were just playing, and we had paid for the full year thing. And I think you were playing too.
I remember.
And we were starting to watch CTR, and it was the same kind of thing we saw last year. I mean, before the expansion, I mean, to keep the hype going, as people were burned out on doing stuff, it was like they just started flooding with interviews, which is great for shows like ours and the other ones to have plenty of stuff to talk about, as opposed to the 6 month to the 1 year point after the expansion drops, where there are very few interviews.
Yes, but right now that's where we're at, and this is where the interviews are. A year into Siege of Orgrimmar, we're finally 6 months from the expansion. Terrible. But let's get into it, because they talked a lot about how Mist played out and how they some of the things they thought. Obviously, they talked about the Stone Guards and the randomization of boss fights, and they talked about Paragons in this tier. They had originally planned to have it work like Stone Guards. You remember Stone Guards, where you go in and it's 3 of the 4 cats are up each time, and it's a different combination, and the fight changes dramatically depending on which combination you get. And they had talked about doing that this tier with the Paragons of the Claxi, and I guess originally that was how it was tested. And immediately they decided that they're pretty much done with doing that. Randomized
I am happy.
boss fights.
I mean, it was a good reason they brought up too, because they were talking about basically forcing players to learn. It's like learning a new fight each week until you got all the combinations and you had them all down. If you think about, when you're going through and you're learning the fights, and I mean, I agree with what they did. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, because it's really kind of a wall that's in there. I guess the top end guilds are not going to have a problem, because they're the top end for a reason. They'll react. And
well, I mean, and you compare the examples they gave, like the Stone Guards. Yeah, that's annoying. There's 4 bosses. If heroic Paragons randomized his order, they're talking about 9 bosses with just epic shit ton of combinations coming at you. You know what I mean? And they're random each week.
Yeah.
So you're talking about changing a very long kill order, and actually every week breaking it down and changing it and doing it on the fly, which would be insane.
Which sucks is the way that it evolved, because if you think back to one of my favorite fights in Karazhan was the theater fight, where you did Romeo and Juliet, or whatever the hell it was, or Oz, or that, and those were all fun fights, because I mean, yeah, one was maybe for your group makeup was a little more difficult than the other, but it wasn't impossible. But it was always kind of cool as to say, oh, cool, we got the Wizard of Oz, and for our group we've had this 5 weeks in a row just because of random stuff, so we know we can get through this. Or Big Bad Wolf, okay. Don't forget to run. Don't forget to kite. I mean, it was kind of cool for those kinds of fights. Right. I think it just kind of expanded into a little more than what it probably should have. That
event was, essentially 3 separate fights. And those fights, you know what I mean? Obviously, those fights were the same every week. It wasn't, you know what I mean? But once you did have to learn all 3 fights, that actually, they probably won't do anything like that again, just because they could have had 3 bosses in there. And they combined it into, I mean, obviously they would, I would assume,
I can't wait to
add some stuff to some of those fights. But yeah, it's that would have given 3 more bosses in Karazhan, or at least 2 more, instead of combining 4 different acts into one fight. They don't seem to want to do that anymore. All right, so then they talked obviously more about the Draenor raids, and they said one of the things they said is there are no vehicle fights planned. I don't know how you guys feel about vehicle fights, but I always hated them. Hated.
Yeah.
I don't mind an occasional vehicle attempt, in doing something in a vehicle, but obviously you play your class to play your class. You don't play your class to have 3 abilities.
Yeah.
One is a ram, one is a cat. How many, whatever. So that's fine. That is totally fine with me. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think it might be different if they designed an entire instance around vehicles, and then you could do it if you wanted to. It'd be more like a siege, like Siege of Orgrimmar. Wing 1 is actually sieging Orgrimmar. That might have been okay, Because then once you got, especially with the new system being able to skip bosses, it's like, okay, so we got like 2-3 weeks of doing these things. We get the siege down, get trebuchets in place, catapults, ballista, blah 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 blah. You do the siege, and then after a while you're like, you know what, we hate this fight, this sucks. For the exact reasons Greer's saying, we want to play our classes. It's like, okay, fine, we just skip it. We're not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that in the future, or a specific raid for boss raid that is built like that, so people can do it if they want, and if they don't.
I mean, there's been varying, levels of how much I hate some of them, but like if you remember, like the dragons in Malagos, that was one of like the just the addition of 3D combat into the vehicle combat. It was something that it was a nightmare. I remember getting people to even like be at the same level, and just dense people. I mean, some of that's group density in general, but that's
have the waterborne combat.
Right? Yeah, it's
yeah.
But yeah, so that's vehicle fights. I think we killed that. Another big thing is flexible raid sizes. They're actually going, and I don't know if this is a big thing, but it is cool. It will flex from 10 to 30 players. So
nice.
In theory, you could go up and have a 30-player raid should you so wish. I'm not sure that I don't know that there's a I didn't catch whether or not there was like a real benefit to having 30. I assume gear drops proportionally no matter what. But it is cool. It says, provided client and server performance is okay. So in theory, they're going to be able to do that. We'll see if it actually
maybe this is their. Oh, you know what? This could be their WildStar counter, and they get it working for 30, and they go to 40, and say, for all of you who missed 40-man raids, look what we're bringing back at the end of Warlords.
I think it's more along the lines of you get those 25-man guilds, where, maybe they have like 35 people, and they have to constantly rotate people out because, they don't have the room. So I agree you can almost
argue that at any level, though. I mean, because somebody said the same thing. I mean, the opposite of what you're saying now, as somebody had posted or commented about it, saying, it was in the blue posts, and they talked about it, saying, hey, well, why do we have to, why do we have to have this whole flex thing? It should be 10 or blah 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 blah. And they're talking, and then the dev response is basically, what do you have against 10-man raids?
Right.
I mean,
or what is it?
If you got 11,
why does it have to
invite your
10?
buddy?
Why? Yeah, exactly.
It was for 10. It was Karazhan. It was like a Karazhan or Zul'Aman.
Yeah. Are there going to be 10-man raids?
10-man raids. Yeah.
And basically, they said, why? I mean, you don't need what's
to.
Your attachment specifically to that
Blizzard
number?
has the formula. They have the formula. They're the only game that does it, and it's awesome until other games pick it up. And other games, Rift and everyone else is just they're missing a mark if they don't shift their raid to a flex system.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. Like I said, I remember when they first talked about flex, I foreboded that all their raids would go flex like that. I mean, it's just a great freaking idea. It is.
Yeah.
It solves one of the continuous problems that I've always played. Was trying to have a bench, but never having too many or too few. And it always is a problem. And now you don't really have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's great. They also touched a little bit on the legendary quest. And they talked about how they liked it. And basically Ian said that in 5.2, when you were working toward your meta gem and everything, he said by the time that you could get the meta gem, major super progressive guilds had already cleared Throne of Thunder.
Yeah.
But it provided a nice boost halfway through the tier for those that hadn't still. And then they said that they didn't like the way it worked with the cloak, because when the cloak came out, you got it on day one, and all of Siege, you had the cloak. And obviously, as because of that, there are quite a few groups that, really require you to have the cloak. They've always had it. They've had it since day one of Siege, so if you don't, then you're definitely behind everyone else, because they always had it. So hopefully that, we'll see. They said it'll probably be something more like where it'll be a delay if they do it again. They also, I think they like it, and it's going to happen again. But they also said that obviously one of the worst parts was redoing, the secrets and the Titan runestones on alts. And they mentioned that possibly in the future, you'll be able to skip those parts with your alts. And that would make that obviously significantly easier to get on your alts. which I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's good because I hate doing it. But again, like if all my alts could just so easily have the legendary cloak, it would be insane. Like, because I would obviously have it on all of them.
I think they need to shift to a system like what was the other game we played? And we don't have
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Shared. Give me shared rep, and you don't have to worry about it. Then you put the cloak reward at a certain rep at the end. At the end of your quest, you should be at that reward, and then you got it. And if you want the achievement for getting, completing the quest, then you give the achievement for completing the quest line. So you want the achievement on your character, go through the quest line. You don't want the achievement, you don't give a crap. You want the cloak, you're automatically revered with them, and you just go buy it.
Agree.
And it solves both. I mean, so your achievement hunters can get it, and guys like me who are never going to do it, or say, yeah, okay, I'll get it now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice, yeah. It'd be nice if you were getting it, I have to say.
I am. I told you I work my Valor every single week. I work my Valor every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Onward we shall go. We shall go. So one of the other things they talked about, and this one isn't the first time they brought this up, but they're doing some things with spell visuals, which I think are fantastic and could be like huge. Like honestly, for performance in the game, I think they could be huge. Basically, what they're going to do is, you have your big flashy spells. And if it's your spell, you want it to be big and flashy because it's yours and you want to look badass. But what they're doing is there will be a toned down version that everyone else sees. So like if you as the mage are blowing shit up with ice, there will be less ice on my screen so that I can see my abilities. And basically there's going to be an internal priority for your own abilities so that you'll see yours prioritized over everyone else's. And in theory, as they get pushed down the priority queue, some you won't even see. And basically, the statement in here that I like, and it was from Celestalon, I think it was probably a tweet. It says, in heroic 25-player raids, the client will be displaying roughly 50 to 70% fewer effects. And that's a lot. Like, that is a lot less
huge
effects on your screen to run your system up. I mean, think about like doing Ordos or doing like a 40-man world boss now. That's the biggest thing is you just bog out because there's too much shit. No matter how good your computer is, there's too many people doing everything all at once. You're bloodlusted and everybody's casting at max speed. All their visuals are exploding, healing is everywhere, and it's a nightmare. And I'm really glad that they're changing that. Are you guys feeling it? Does my emphasis make you feel like shit is exploding around?
This is one of the things that you were talking about, Greer, saying that you were excited about spell effects, and I was like, what? But the more I thought about it, I was thinking, it would be really cool is if we went with these spell effects, especially on the tanks and healers, and you go with the thing. My wife just walked in. You go with the.
I thought someone was going to kill you.
She didn't come on camera. She was cracking up when she said it. But you go with the spell effects I saw in a Saturday Night Live short. Wherever you're looking, the dotted lines come out. Just so I can make sure that Az and I are looking at the same target when we're tanking. And then we can also see when Cash is in the corner looking at himself applying bandages.
Yes. Undoubtedly he is doing that.
Yeah, so...
That's great, yeah. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big deal for performance. They haven't, they've talked about it maybe being a big deal, but we don't really know, I guess, until it's tested on a mass scale. But I think it's a big deal. One of the other big things, and I think this might be the last thing we touch on from this interview for now, is they talked a little bit again about Time Walker, and this term and name has come up a few times before. And what they're talking about is they said they really want to give players the ability, if you so wish, to scale down to the appropriate level for running older dungeons.
Kazan!
And I assume, yes, I'd like to think that will eventually apply to raids. And if you just think about the sheer number of dungeons and raids that you just imagine they flip the switch all on one day, which I'd like to think they wouldn't because it would just be ridiculous. But all of a sudden, I've got 50 new raid bosses that I never really killed, not for real. That I'm gonna have to raid for the next 8 months to get caught up and kill them all because I want to, and I don't even care. They said the only thing that's holding them back is they haven't quite decided the reward structure. It says, but I think that once they get it figured out, it'll be dungeons. And even though they say not for raids initially. I think it'll eventually be raids, and
I think it'll
eventually
be.
all that
and
content
again,
will come back.
That
and will be.
that
I
puts
think it's
Blizzard,
awesome.
and that puts Blizzard ahead of every other company doing raids. I mean, you think about that. If you could go back and go at, I mean, if you want, and then you probably want to at that point add the blacklist back in for saying no, I don't want to go do the champions, the champions, arena fight, whatever anymore. But yeah,
I'm sure it wouldn't be Group Finder, but maybe. But I would think it would be more of a build your own group type deal. Yeah, I don't want them to build LFR or something like the old raids. I don't want to do them that way.
Let's go mythic Ulduar at level.
I'm like, that's what I'm talking about though. Like to go back and do Ulduar at level again, to where you had to have a full group, or Black Temple or Kara or SSC.
No, I think they leave it. I think they put it in raids for the normal heroic and even mythic. I think that would be. I mean, that would be the pinnacle of
like legitimate.
You could do any raid on any difficulty. I mean, the problem with that comes into the difficulty without raising.
Well, so that's
the mobs
a lot
up as opposed to lowering us down. Yeah,
it's a lot more work. To
expansion.
Essentially rebuild the raids into 4 different modes than it is to find an appropriate level to gear us down. And they don't have to be hard. They don't even have to be as hard as they were. They just have to be good. And you have to have
Lich King was after
instead of I can solo.
Lich King was after Burning Crusade, right?
Lore hero.
Lich King was after Burning Crusade, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then that should be where we're going back. So we're going back to Draenor. I'm assuming we're going to go back to Northrend and take on the new Lich King because he's probably finally lost his lava-filled mind.
Who knows? Yeah, we'll see. That
they
story
can just keep recycling
come.
through these things. You've got to.
That story will come to.
Boulevard.
All right. Well, that pretty much. There's obviously just a lot more in this interview, and I suggest you watch it on Final Boss TV, and I suggest you read the summary on MMO Champion because they are both great. But we are going to move off of this now because holy crap, we could talk about it forever. So we're going to move on to the next topic, and we're going to have a couple short ones after that because that was long. Once again, BlizzCon for the 3rd week in a row. It's BlizzCon. We're going to talk about it for a minute. Tickets sold out. Oh my gosh. Tickets are sold out. Surprise! And yes, I will be attending once again. Yay! I'm very excited. I really am. I actually got a ticket on Saturday, and it was like super easy. And everybody who's stressed out on Wednesday, I mean, I apparently learned from last year that Saturday was like way less crazy. And it was. I had no problem getting a ticket. But obviously there were some issues with Eventbrite, and some people are kind of bummed. There's some people who didn't get tickets that are bummed, and they probably have a legitimate beef. There were a couple things specifically that didn't happen. First, you get put in the waiting room, and then if you sat in the waiting room too long and you didn't really refresh or click, there's a chance that you would just get straight kicked from the waiting room after waiting an indefinite amount of time. And then, now you're out of line and you have to try to get back in and hope that you get through. Now, I've seen some people that had that.
So we say that the waiting room software was designed by the same people who did the VA patient tracking in their waiting rooms. I mean, after a while, you get kicked off the list.
Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And so and I actually saw some people that tweeted that happened to them, and then I think they were still able to get back in and still get tickets.
That's good.
So it was okay. But also there was when they released a post, they talked about, they gave you like all the steps. And one of the things was that the default tickets were supposed to be set to 1. And when you have like a 10-second window to hurry up and click before everybody else buys all the tickets, when you think it's going to be set to 1 and you find out it's set to nothing, so you have to do that drop down, that's like 4 seconds. When you have 8 seconds, 4 seconds freaks you out. So people freaked out about that too. And honestly, I think for the most part, people who really wanted tickets got them. And I think that generally happens every year. I've seen some people floating around that had got some extras, so I think if you, check with the CTR folk, and maybe I think I seen the Elvine on the Twitter. So there's some extra tickets floating around out there too if you're still looking. Obviously, you can go to eBay if you want to pay double, but I wouldn't suggest that. I think they are pulling those down also, because you're not supposed to do that, but people do obviously. So that's that. And then the other quick topic is the War Crimes novel released this week. and I'm sure you guys ran out and read it because I know you guys are big lore hounds, and you were dying to hear the story.
I actually usually like the Warcraft novels. Is this by Christy Golden?
Yes,
no?
Yeah, it is.
Christy
Golden
I usually like her novels anyway. So, I mean, I haven't read. I think there's two, right? What was the one that came out earlier? The one that recently.
There's Tides of War. Was one of the more recent.
I haven't read the last two, and it'll be this one and then the last one. I haven't read. Yeah, I read. And then
this anyway. So this was, it was a book, and it was a courtroom drama, and I read it or listened to it because I used Audible and listened to it because Audible is pretty awesome, and it's great for listening and driving. So I like to do that. So
and
you've already listened to War Crimes. You've already listened to War Crimes.
Yeah,
you've already heard it.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to
recommend it. No, would you recommend it?
Honestly, it's not my favorite of the books that I read.
I'm looking for
a lot of the story takes place in the courtroom. It's like a courtroom drama sort of, and the parts that I was like waiting for. I don't want to spoil it. It just the things that I really wanted from the book weren't really in the book. They're still to come. So I found that to be a little bit disappointing. But
I guess
it was a good book. I like all their books. I finished listening to Wolfheart a few days before War Crimes came out.
Wolfheart?
Wolfheart.
Oh, Wolfheart. Okay.
Yes, that's the Varian book, and you're a dick. Okay. So that knocks out the news for the week. So now we can move on to our book. Basically, this is a section where I hit the forums. I usually hit the WoW forums, and I just pick a couple forum posts that I think are cool topics, and I read them, and then we try to answer them, pose a few questions about them. So the first one I came to was a thread called "Concerns about Warlords Raiding," WOD raiding. And in the thread, his main concern was the lockouts. And as they announced in the interviews, there are now 4 separate lockouts. There will be LFR, normal, heroic, and mythic, and they will all be completely separate with no crossover. And some people are freaking out about burnout. Now they said that their goal is for you, if you're focusing on raiding, that you'll be focusing on 2 tiers at a time. Mm-hmm. So you won't be running all 4. But obviously there's still the, hey, I need that one thing, or the, hey, I need that, and we really have to because we need every possible advantage. So this is a topic that gets talked about a lot. But what do you think? What do you guys think about the 4 separate lockouts? Is that too much of the same raid?
Only if you choose to do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be fine.
Your true hardcore raiders, though, you're maybe 0.1% of the community. Yeah, they've said it over and over again. Those are the people that are going to have the problem. I don't really see it being that big of a deal.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think it is either. And I think one of the other things that it provides is a good way for the new players to catch up. So I mean, when you get in, like we're getting into a situation where we've been building our raid team now, getting ready for Warlords of Draenor, and we're getting our raid team together, we're building it up, and you're playing with people, and you've got people who start coming, like Rev came back this week, and you want to get them geared up. If you had 4 separate lockouts, you could basically say, okay, we're going to run you through this, get you some gear. Okay, now you meet the level of the next one and run you this and this week to get you some gear. I think it's easier to catch up. I think for the people who are pushing, who are on the normal team and the mythic team or the heroic team, whatever, who are doing those kinds of things, are able to continue on and just do that. I mean, people are saying, I don't need to go back and do normal. I'm not going to burn myself on the bosses, so I will be on the mythic team. And that's what I'm going to do. And as you're joining us now, you've been off for 3 months. I'll go back. I'll run some LFR with you to get you geared up, but I'm not doing. I think it's a good way to catch people up.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that we all come from a place of you don't have to run everyone. Like none of us are at that level. And obviously, if you are that hardcore about raiding, I could see why you would be concerned. But if you're that hardcore about it, then at that point, you're just
it's not going to bother you.
That's your thing. That's what you want.
So Goji will be running all 4 versions every single week, I'm sure, because he likes doing that stuff.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah, he's really a big fan.
And you,
so yeah,
you'll be doing
that's
you and Goji.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Yeah. You know me. I'll be playing the Warcraft. It's what I like to do. It's pretty fun stuff. All right, so let's move on then. The second forum post I grabbed is called "Stuff You Want That Will Never Happen," and basically this guy's post was essentially, "Hey, what is it that you want in Warcraft that you think they probably never will actually put in, but it's something that you maybe have always wanted?" And I thought we would just tackle that for each person, and I think we should let Don go first. The Scrivian.
Well, let's go with one of my latest favorite gaming mechanics, and how about some serious naval combat?
Naval combat.
Build up guild ships, go fight at sea. I mean, we always see the cutscenes. The Alliance and the Horde are fighting, or air. We got airships. Where are the fighters? Bring me my Star Wars Old Republic flight fighting gnomish fighters taking off from carriers and fighting in the air, or fleet battles.
Eerily like that vehicle combat we were just talking about being so horrible.
But it's PvP. It's PvP. If you're doing fleets, an Alliance versus a Horde fleet, where you're actually out between the continents fighting for resources or whatever.
I feel like games still have to come up with a better camera angle for 3D combat where there's vertical change like that. It just still doesn't really look right. But okay, I think
it's more. I think I look for more the strategic.
Sorry to tear apart your thing, by the way. I apologize. It's totally up to you what you want in the game.
Yeah.
And I apologize.
You're not going to dissuade me. I don't care.
It's stupid. All right, Az, what do you think, man?
What would I like to see in the game? I'd like to see more Burdens of Eternity for me. No,
undoubtedly.
Yeah, because so when you log in tonight, they're gonna just email you some more.
Yeah. I'd like to see some, instant burden that levels me to 100 and fully geared. I guess the one thing that I would like to see, a lot less douchey people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. You're gonna have them. But that's one thing I would like to see. That will never happen.
Yeah, well, no, because that's like a something we need in the world as a whole, and that's way outside the world of Warcraft.
Yeah,
but
like
good luck.
See people come into a raid, not, all right, you wipe one time, don't just leave. That's what I'd like.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
You and all
the other
beauty
pageant contestants want world peace. I get it. It's an admirable goal, and I would greatly appreciate it. Gaming would be more fun if everybody wasn't yelling at each other all the time. But I don't know how these people would get. I think people will be blowing their brains out at a record rate because at some point this has become how people vent their frustrations. So it's crazy. But okay, so I thought about it. And honestly, it's just, it's the thing that I say in most games. I want 3-faction PvP. I want a decent 3-faction PvP. And I'm not even sure what makes a decent 3-faction PvP because it's been so long. I always harken back to Dark Ages, but that had some siege combat and there were castles, but that was a lot of fun. I don't think that Rift does it very. I think it's awful. I hate Conquest.
Yeah, Rift is horrible.
So I don't want it to be like that.
Yeah.
But I know that there's no real scenario where a new faction is going to appear in this world. I mean, they've never had any interest in it. So I assume that will be something that I want that will never happen. So that's my thing.
True.
And with that, I guess that covers our bonus damage topics for the night. And yeah, so anybody got any shout-outs? Want to shout out some of your peeps? Galleon builders?
Yes, all the Galleon builders. We got, I'm not going to go through all the names, but I got Chemo, Grizzly, and let's see, Chemo, Grizzly, Demite, Got, Shill, Zarek. So I'm doing this from memory. All those people who have joined the community, welcome to Critical Moment. So, and I know there's a few more in there. Cedar, a couple of ones. So they've been participating in the forums and having a good time on the site and stuff. So,
US?
Just maybe a shout out to Rev.
Cool. I think for me, I just want to shout out the those of us playing WoW this over the last week. Like, I'll tell you what, and those of you who haven't rejoined us, rejoin us. Like, there are people in the guild who are just awesome. You know, like Goji and Az, and I'm okay. We will gear you up, and we will bring you along. I mean, you know, people will help out, and it's been awesome. Like, obviously, Rev can attest to it immediately right now because we just did it. But I mean, pretty much everybody. If you come back and you're interested and you want to play with us, we will do what we can for you to be able to play with us. So come do it. That's my shout out for the night.
To add on a little bit. To add on to your shout out, right now, piggybacking on this one, is that you shouldn't be worried about jumping back in now and joining us, because what we're building for is building the raid team for Warlords. So, I mean, all the stuff we're doing now, it's cool, it's nice to do, and we're going to push it as far as we can, you know, from flex to normal to hard. I mean, as much as we can get into before this, but the big thing we're doing is basically team building. And finding out who the good raiders, who the raider dedicated or devoted raiders are going to be for going into Warlords. Yeah, and also just to play and have fun. I mean, if you want to just come out and just run through all the quests and have a good time in Warlords with no pressure to raid, you're certainly welcome to do that as well.
Yep, we take them all. We like people. We like to talk to people. That's what we do. That's why we're here, because we like to talk to 8 people.
Yeah.
Woo, so that pretty much covers our show. How do you guys think?
And yay! Yay!
All right. Well, yeah. End the show. Do we have an end of the show thing? End of the show. We don't have anything. God damn it. We got some other stuff.